Hi, I'm Roger Mashad. At Franklin Templeton Investments, we believe that citizens need to be informed about the resources that can help make higher education more affordable. That's why we're proud to support programming produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation and their partners in public television.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Sun National Bank, QualCare Inc., a local managed care company covering 750,000 New Jersey residents. New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, auto insurance, homeowners insurance, and banking under the principle of stewardship. PSE&G, committed to improving New Jersey's economy and strengthening its communities. Fedway Associates, Inc., the Russell Berry Foundation, and by Cohn Resnick, providing accounting, tax, and advisory services for more than 90 years.
This is One-on-One.
When you first heard that they were doing Charlie Rose and Gayle King, didn't you go, what?
People like laughing at others, so I don't mind if the other is me.
See, you go right into the character. That's what it is.
I'm bringing families together a half an hour each week. Man, I'm doing something special.
And so I do feel successful.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is One-on-One. Let me introduce you for the first time. I know it will not be the last to One-on-One. Jim Gerace, Vice President, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut at Verizon. Good to see you, Jim.
Yeah, great to be here.
Lot changed because of and after Hurricane Sandy. Biggest lessons for Verizon. Talk about it.
Yeah, well, that was kind of a rude welcome for me to New Jersey. I had just started in New Jersey a couple months before.
Yeah, welcome to town.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. And I still have a responsibility for New York, so I had the double whammy there. A bunch of lessons learned, although I have to say, Verizon has interests all over the world, so not a year goes by that we're not faced with a Sandy-like event. So we did have a lot of experience responding. But what we did learn was that our older technologies did not fare as well as our newer technologies. So the fiber optic cables fared much better than the copper cables, and wireless fared much better than either of those two.
But you guys, explain to folks the Verizon network, if you will, for those, I would say for those who aren't familiar, as if lots of folks are sitting there saying, well, where is Verizon? Explain to folks where you are, and then where you got hit. Because I know, I was thinking about Seaside Heights, the epicenter for a lot of folks. That's just one place where the poles you got hit.
Right.
Where are you guys?
Well, we don't have poles and wires everywhere. Largely focused on the Northeast, from Virginia up to Maine is where the wires and the poles are. We like to talk about our three networks. That being one, the wireless network, which is coast to coast in the United States, and then we have a global, really internet network, IP network that really lands in about 150 countries across the world.
Demand. We were having a conversation before we got on the air. You say that sometimes people come up to you and say, I'm always connected. I'm always connected to someone, some technology, and it's your fault, Jim Gerace. It's your fault in Verizon. And you say?
They do. I say it's our fault. And then that customer in the same breath will ask for another application that measures all their exercise programs.
So therefore?
You know what I could really use on this cell phone?
So who's driving it?
Yeah. Well, it's really customers of all ages. In fact, in New Jersey, there are more cell phones than there are people.
There are more cell phones than there are people?
Yes. Thankfully, our customers are now on their second, sometimes third device. The tablets are very, very popular now. They're connected wirelessly to the network. They have cell phones. Each one of them has cell phones. They have connected cars. If you have a connected car, Pandora in your car, that's connected through our network to the internet. So people are now on their second, third devices.
But here's the thing. The other thing you said to me is that Sandy also just reminded you and your colleagues at Verizon that certain things need to be done, and that consumer patterns, if you will, behavior is something we need to keep in mind. Our home phones do not play the role they used to play in an emergency like this. Talk about that, and talk about what you brought in to help us better understand it.
Right. I mean, largely every customer in New Jersey has a cell phone in their pocket. So when an emergency hits, they just go there naturally to the cell phone. And like I said earlier, cell phones largely were unaffected by Sandy. There were small pockets. So more and more customers are relying on the wireless connectivity. The home phone now, a couple things. I was with a group of people earlier this week and I asked them, how many people have heard their home phone ring in the last couple of days? No hands go up. I said, well, why do you keep your home phone? And there's really two camps. One is the people who don't want to give up that phone number. It's been in the family for a long time. Yeah. And the other people like the idea of having a family phone, the one that relatives may call if they don't want to talk to an individual member of the family, but the whole family, or to direct solicitations to, or when you fill out that credit card application, that's the phone number you give. So they keep their own phone. But even that now is becoming more wireless. One of the things that Sandy pointed out was the barrier islands, for instance. We're told that those areas will forever be in harm's way, changing climate, et cetera. So it didn't make sense to us to start putting up the same poles and the same wires again if they're going to come down. So we rushed development of this device called VoiceLink.
VoiceLink.
This is essentially turning your home wired phone into a wireless connected home phone. On the side are these jacks that your home wiring plugs into. So if you have a phone still hanging in your kitchen, you plug the wire into there, and now your home phone, all the phones in your home, are connected via this wireless link back to the network. So no wires to come down from a 100-foot oak tree, no wires to get wet, as happened in many places with Sandy. So it has battery backup, and in fact, we even developed this so it had AA battery capability. So if you have a prolonged power outage, this thing will last as long as your supply of AA batteries.
So hold on, less of a chance in a Sandy-like situation, Jim, of losing the capacity to use my home phone.
Correct. And for those people who don't want to give up that home phone number that I talked to you about, it just gets moved over to this. So if you could hold on to that.
And finally here, the conversions piece. For those who may be watching us while we're a PBS connected station, a lot of people are watching us on Fios as well. We have PBS and Fios. We're on Fios, connected to you guys. Talk about the folks who want the conversions. They want Fios, they want their phone, and they want their computer, right?
Right.
Triple?
Yeah, triple play. But more so, they want their video and high-speed internet access, which is what our Fios, which is a fiber optic cable, not a copper cable,
right,
to the home can deliver. And the speeds are astronomical. I mean, they're, different tiers that you could buy, faster, and fastest tiers of service.
Is it going to get faster?
Probably. I don't know how much faster.
Yeah, I was going to ask how much faster could it? Yeah.
But that high speed capability is also what helps you deliver video, television, and then video that doesn't buffer as you're trying to watch it. Just recently, New Jersey is really about a month or so away from having its 4G network complete.
4G network.
So this is 4G,
Translation?
4G wireless, which is just a faster wireless service. And most customers who now have phones that are capable of accessing that are telling me, I noticed the improvement right away because when I try to watch video on my cell phone, I don't see buffering anymore. And that's largely because of the speed. So now the next step there is, people are going to be watching television on their smartphones.
Consumer demand driving a lot of this.
Yes.
And Verizon trying to stay connected to it and ahead of it. Jim Gerace, Vice President, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut at Verizon. I want to thank you for joining us, and we'll keep track of this. This will not be the last time you join us on one-on-one. Hopefully that will be the last storm for a while like that, but you guys will be ready, right?
We are ready for the next one.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve.
Stay with us. One-on-one will continue right after this. Thank you, Jim.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
We're speaking with Josh Weston, Honorary Chair of ADP. He's the Chair of Public Media NJ. That is the parent, if you will, of NJTV, our public television station in New Jersey, and also serves on the board of WNET. Josh, this is the second part of a two-part conversation we're having on education. I'm going to pick up on our conversation regarding education reform in New Jersey, merit pay for teachers, teacher tenure reform, if you will, and also we're going to talk about the other end of education, higher ed. Go back, if you will. You were talking when we last had our conversation about merit pay for teachers. Pick it up.
As is true in every other sector of performance, all performers, even if they are all conscientious, don't achieve the same outcomes. If you don't recognize superior outcomes achieved by superior teachers, two regrettable things happen. You don't even recruit the best teachers in the first place because they would be aware that their career possibilities monetarily, which isn't everything, but money matters, are limited. Number two, if you do recruit good teachers and over time they are recognized no differently from any other teacher, it's very demotivational, can even lead to voluntary terminations. I don't think if you want to harness people to want to give their best, stay loyal to what they're doing, be motivated to do more, I don't think if you are totally flat on recognition you achieve that. Just add a touch of humor. Many years ago I was on the Governor's Quality Education Commission in this state, and there too I was speaking about merit pay, and for whatever set of political reasons got nowhere. So I went to my local school system, Montclair.
Mine too.
And they cannot have merit pay. So the Weston family set up a recognition program. And every year,
yes, you did,
with the assistance of the PTA, not the administration, the PTA, parents and children can nominate outstanding teachers.
The Weston Awards.
Yes, we start with 200 nominations, and every year we pick 16. They get recognized by the Board of Education in a public event. They get a check. That's nice. They get a certificate. And those 16 teachers almost always cry because they never get recognized elsewhere.
That's a big thing in our town. We happen to live in the same town, and this is a big deal in our town. And I'm not saying that because you're a friend. It happens to be a fact. And I know those teachers, one of them happens to be one of our kids, happens to be a kid in the public schools, and one of those teachers got that award. But I got to ask you something. The NJA, the New Jersey Education Association, has been on Kappa Report, and they have said they feel that that competition among teachers sometimes can also produce teachers who do not share information, who are not as collegial as they would otherwise be with another teacher they're competing with, you say?
My experience has been in the business world where you have lots of executives with similar responsibilities. It may be one geography versus another geography, or one group of salespeople versus another. And I have found universally, at least in my background, I can't speak for the whole world, that if you develop a culture that recognizes the value of cooperation, that recognizes the value of recognition, I have never run into people creating walls around their intellectual property because they want to beat the other guy out.
Teaching's not different than business?
I have no reason to think, as far as sharing ideas, that teachers in different classrooms would say, I'm not going to tell that other teacher about a great technique I have because someday maybe I won't get the Weston Award if they get the Weston Award.
All right. What's wrong, if you will, with our higher ed system?
Well, there are many things that could be much, much better. That's another way of saying there's a lot wrong.
The biggest?
Education at the undergrad, let's just talk undergrads, is way too expensive in most colleges and universities. There are many reasons. I'll just give you a few iceberg tips. The last I knew, every year is either 52 weeks long or 53. As far as I know, most students go to 2 semesters per year. Typically, a semester is about 16 weeks. If I multiply 16 times 2, I end up with a gap. Now, things go on in the gap, but they do not efficiently use the overhead and the structure, or for that matter, even the professors who are being paid full year. Professors are very important people. They deliver the product. So let's talk a little bit about professors. particularly tenured ones. From my exposure to about a dozen universities, I can't speak for all of the others, but I'm pretty sure that there are very, very many tenured faculty members who teach 2 or 3 courses a semester. You can multiply a course by 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. There's a big gap between this hypothetical 40-hour week, could be 50 hours, but I don't think the professors are called upon to do as much as they owe their students. In addition, there are many universities and colleges who, on their payroll, have more non-teaching members on their staff, call it administration and everything else, than the body count of teachers who are in front of students.
The administration is fat?
Well, that's a provocative word.
Well, I'm using the word.
Excessive sounds nicer. I think any university where 50% of all the people they are paying, many of whom are doing worthwhile things, whatever they are, to be not in front of students, to me, says there's a big imbalance.
Would you run your corporation that way?
No way. Well, my corporation wasn't a school.
Well, when you were running ADP, would you look for such excess?
What I would do at ADP, and I'm not necessarily recommending it to anybody else, if I called myself the equivalent of a president of a university, but I ran a business.
Couple minutes left, go ahead.
I would visit every operating location within my whole business. Let's say the dean of this and the dean of that, and not only talk to deans, talk to students, I would talk to teachers. I would want to see the organizational chart, which would display how many buckets you have doing how much and how many layers of personnel are within a bucket, the most grotesque of which has nothing to do with education. Bob Gates, very respected Secretary of Defense, in his last month in office, pretty late, announced for the first time he was appalled to discover there were 32 layers of people between him and the firing line. Well, I'm not here to talk about the Secretary of Defense, but I'm reasonably sure that if someone looked regularly at organization charts at universities and elsewhere, you would find excesses, and therefore it adds up to the tuition for students, and then the worst of it is they borrow money to pay for it. They don't have a choice. The interest rates are sometimes excessive. And to take another item out of context.
Couple seconds, go ahead, Josh.
If a student defaults on his loan, he cannot go into bankruptcy. Bankruptcy does not take off the books a student loan. We take off everything else. So you can't start anew. It's terrible.
Josh, we covered a lot of ground. Next time we will pick up the conversation on tenure reform and a whole range of other subjects. Most importantly, every time you come in, you share your perspective and challenge us in our thinking. But more importantly, we have to act on it. Appreciate you coming in. Josh Weston, Honorary Chair of ADP, the Chair of Public Media NJ, and a board member at WNET. I want to thank you for taking the time to do this.
And I thank you. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation.
Thank you,
But give me another chance.
I always give you another chance.
You're going to cut that off.
No, I'm not going to cut that off. Stay right there. We'll be right back right after this. Thanks, Josh.
If you would like more information on this program, or if you'd like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Visit us online at oneonone.org, or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD.
Richard E. Polton, author of the book, The Life and Times of Fred Wesley Wentworth, the architect who shaped Paterson, New Jersey, and its people. Interesting book cover. Outside the Fabian. Was Fabian a famous theater in Paterson?
Fabian was the theater, one of the great theaters in Paterson, and named after the entrepreneur who developed a whole range of theaters here in New Jersey.
Richard, I'm curious about this guy, Fred Wesley Wentworth. Who is this guy, and why is he worth writing an entire book about?
He's an architect who comes from one of the most distinguished New England families. His family had been in New Hampshire since the 1630s.
Right.
And he graduated from Dartmouth in 1887.
I had a picture of him right there. Yeah.
And of all the places in the world for an Ivy League blue blood to arrive, he picks Paterson, New Jersey, and settles here in 1889. And his story is really the story of the growth of Paterson, and it encompasses a whole array of issues that have shaped our city.
For example?
For example, he was for the first 20 years of his life, of his career here in Paterson, he's the architect for the leading industrialists and leading citizens of the area, designing large homes, supervising the construction of the courthouse here in Paterson, designing schools, and all of the civic institutions.
We're looking at right there. Is that the Atwood family?
That's the Atwood family in a home that he designed in Oradell for another New Englander who moved to New York and made his fortune. Mr. Atwood was made a significant amount of money by bringing grapefruit from Florida into the American market.
Is that right?
And that's one of the things about that era, is that Wentworth had a whole array of clients: Garrett Hobart, John Griggs, who was a governor of the state of New Jersey, and the Attorney General of the United States.
Out of Paterson.
All out of Paterson.
You know, it's interesting. We should remind folks that we're doing, while one-on-one tapes, our programming over at Lincoln Center and the Tisch WNET studio and all around. This is our primary studio in Paterson, New Jersey. Paterson is not as well known as it should be as an amazing city.
Absolutely. And in fact, driving in to the studio, just across the way.
We should make it clear we're part of the St. Joseph's campus here, St. Joseph's Hospital campus.
Right.
Go ahead.
In full view of your site is a building that Wentworth designed that was occupied by Curtiss Wright. And that's the location where the airplane engine that Lindbergh used.
Hold on, the Wright brothers?
Well, it's the Wright brothers, but they got it. They developed. Curtiss Wright was largely an airplane engine manufacturing firm that was a combination of the Wrights and Curtiss. And for many years they were based here in Paterson in a building Wentworth designed. And those are the aircraft engines that flew the Enola Gay and Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis. And his life is intertwined with many of the leading citizens and many of the leading industries that were in that era.
You know, it's funny, my family comes out of Newark, New Jersey, and there's a long history, over 100 years. So my grandparents, my grandmother when she was alive would talk to me about it, my father talks to me about it, but your family and Paterson, over 100-year association with the city of Paterson.
Absolutely.
Talk about it.
Well, my great-grandparents, like so many of Americans, came here about 100 years ago. From Eastern Europe. Paterson has a lot of immigrants, or a lot of people, because it was a textile town. They came from textile cities throughout Europe, whether it was Macclesfield, England, or Białystok, or Lodz in Poland. All textile towns. They came here to become
What does it mean, a
weavers.
textile town?
Well, a town where the principal industry, or a principal industry, is the manufacture of textiles. Paterson was the silk city.
So people would come here, immigrants would come here, who had a specialty, who knew how to work in that field?
Absolutely, who were skilled weavers, or had an experience in Italy or in Switzerland. It's hard to believe, but there was a big Swiss community here in Paterson, but also Eastern Europe. One of the roots of the Mideastern community that's so populous here in Paterson now comes from Syria, people who were in the silk industry in the Mideast. So the Silk Road runs through Paterson, and that was part of the story of the city. And it was also Wentworth's story, because he was here in that golden era when fortunes were being made.
I'm curious about something, Richard. The connection between architecture and a city, the life of a city, the culture of a city, the brand, one of my favorite words, of a city.
Right.
The connection between architecture and a city. Am I making too much of it?
No, not at all. And I think that Paterson has an amazing opportunity to rebuild its brand, as its identity, through its architectural history, and there's efforts being made to do that in the Great Falls National Park.
Yeah, time out. So I think Paterson, I think the Falls.
Yeah. But
not enough.
A lot more. The downtown, in 1902, there was a fire that devastated the city of Paterson, the greatest fire in New Jersey history. And it was a tragic event, but it was also a transformative event. And if you're the leading architect in the city, it's a remarkable opportunity.
A fire is an opportunity?
Oh, absolutely, because in a city like Paterson, which was very prosperous at the time, there was a demand to rebuild almost immediately. So that the downtown of Paterson is really a period piece of buildings that were built between the Great Fire of 1902 and the Great Depression, when development essentially stopped. Now, a lot has been lost to urban renewal and redevelopment.
Go back to the shot of the Fabian again, if we could, the opening shot. So the Fabian, do you know when it was built?
Yeah, it was built in the late 1920s, opened in the late 1920s. It's probably 1928.
Hold on, because there's a reason I asked that. That's in the middle of the Depression.
Well, just before the Depression. The 1929 was the stock market crash.
Okay, so hold on.
The 30s was really the Depression.
If the Fabian had not been built then, it would not have been built.
Absolutely not.
There it is.
Absolutely not.
So
And
it had to be built at that time.
It did, and it was part of a movement that was going on where downtowns were the center of entertainment and culture and life. And the Fabian Theater is the quintessential Wentworth building because it contained an office building for the leading citizens of the town, this fabulous movie theater, and a little known fact is that it had a health club in the basement.
Get out of here.
It did.
So people lived in Paterson, worked in Paterson, played in Paterson. This was like a little New, I don't want to say a little New York because it had its own
It had its own identity, and it was a major metropolitan area with 5 movie theaters and 2 major department stores.
Go out and get this book, The Life and Times of Fred Wesley Wentworth, the architect who shaped Paterson, New Jersey, and its people. Richard E. Polton. Richard, thank you for joining us and bringing this history to us. Great job.
One on One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating 25 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One on One with Steve Adubato has been provided by Sun National Bank, Qualcare Inc., New Jersey Manufacturers Insurance Group, PSE&G, Fedway Associates Inc., the Russell Berry Foundation, and by Cone Resnick. Promotional support provided by the Star Ledger and NJ.com, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine. One on One with Steve Adubato has been produced in partnership with St. Joseph's Healthcare System.
A business relationship with Sun National Bank is the difference between night and day. A great energy rises from New Jersey. It's the pulse of industry, the tempo of technology, the pace of today's entrepreneurs, the best of tomorrow. It's the sound of progress, and we're the bank that's powering it. The financial fuel behind thousands of commercial and small businesses just happens to be Sun. We're Sun National Bank. The difference is night and day.